All right, we are live. Apologize for the technical difficulties. Greg has rebooted his computer. He has shited it. He has put it on penance.
I beat the shit out of it. Slap that mother around.
Greg, I'd like to start.
You already froze on me again. There you go. Now you're
okay. Yeah, and I think that might be on my end. Connection is unstable. If you're on Wi-Fi, okay, that's me. So, but you're fine. That's the important thing.
Okay.
Tell us from the beginning what transpired yesterday when you first heard.
I'll do like what I started to do before okay. We got so rudely interrupted by technical difficulties. So we go back to Monday, and Peter King and Good Morning Football and Albert Breer and Monday Morning Quarterback both write articles after having interviewed Flus and Ryan Poles at the Combine about, how a trade's probably going to take place. There's teams in on it, yada, yada, yada. Well, I've known Peter King for close to 40 years now. And he was a beat writer for Newsday when I was a young scout for the Giants. So that's the connection. And I sent Peter a text. I said, Peter, in your opinion, after talking to Poles, I go, do you think he's posturing or really has two future number ones in hand? He goes, Greg, I think he's got it. He goes, and it would serve him no purpose for me to write an article like that and for him not to be honest about it. And he knew that's what I was going to put in. So just from that, you knew something was going to happen. You just didn't know when. But, listening to everything and putting everything together, listening to everything Ryan said, he wanted something in place before free agency so he could really include this trade as part of free agency. He wanted a player. So it's just like, who was the player? So now let's fast forward to yesterday afternoon. It's 3:00. I get a text from a media friend of mine in Charlotte. And he's like getting a lot of smoke on a Carolina Bears trade. And I said, wow, really? I go, and I texted back to him what Peter said to me, that it was probably going to happen. He goes, no, Greg, this is going to happen like real quick. Like within the next couple hours, he goes, I think. So I go, well, what are you hearing? And he said, well, number 9, a 1 next year, DJ Moore, and then they're still haggling over the other picks. He goes, but that's what I hear. And I go, holy cow. So I'm just trying to be patient. I tweet out the tweet I said, because, first of all, I don't care if I break news. I'm not here to break news. That's not my shtick. And I don't want to put out false rumors, because then you get labeled with that too. If I hear something, I'll put it out. Well, I heard something. I wasn't 100% sure it was true, but I pretty much thought it was going to be true. And no, they're not going to get Bijan Robinson. Get that one out of your head, Tony. Poles ain't taking a running back high. That's not happening. So, at least not in the first. So anyway, I heard nothing more from my guy down south. And so, but I started making some calls, and after I put out that tweet, I got a ton of DMs from people, and there was a lot of smoke going on that something was going to happen, but nobody had it. But the odd part is nobody in the national media had a thing, so, it was really people like us that had more going on. So I said, well, I'm going to push us just a little bit further. Now, this is probably an hour and 15 minutes after my initial text. So I got a good relationship with somebody at the NFL Network. Well, I got with a few, and so it's not DJ, just to clear that up, Daniel Jeremiah. But one of the insiders, and I sent him a text. I go, this is what I'm hearing. Have you heard anything? he said, he texted me back. No, he goes, but I'm checking. And within 6 minutes, Rappaport had the scoop on Twitter, which means that, it either Rappaport, he went to Rappaport made some calls, or it came out to Rappaport. That I don't know. But I got a text right as Rappaport was tweeting it out. I got a text from him, said, "You got it, right on." So, but the package ended up being better than what I was originally told.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is what Schefter put out, the compensation update yesterday, about 20 hours ago, maybe. Pick number 9, pick number 61, a first-round pick in 2024, and the Panthers will be picking high, so the Bears will be. A second-round pick in 2025, and wide receiver DJ Moore.
Pretty good haul.
That is a pretty good haul. Talk to me about DJ Moore. I know you have a player comp for him. Tell your followers.
Well, you look at it, and well, let's back up a little bit. So then I'm told, I go back. This is after the fact now, and I'm told that in order for Poles to make this deal, DJ Moore had to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his one thing. They could argue about some of the other stuff, but they weren't arguing about that. This is the guy we're getting, or we don't have a deal. And, now let's go back to the conversation I had with Poles at the East-West game. And, we've talked about it. And the one thing he said is, when we talked about receivers, he said, I'm looking for another guy who can, who's a separator, kind of like Mooney, but bigger, and he goes, then I got a complete wide receiver crew. So what does he get? That's exactly what he got in DJ Moore. Wow. I mean, you look at the numbers. DJ 6 foot, this combine, 6 foot 210, 4.42, 39.5 vertical jump, and an 11-foot standing broad jump. I think he had a 6.95 or 6.903 cone. I mean, his numbers were top shelf numbers.
Yeah.
So now, who's it compared to trade wise? Because I saw some analytical idiot this morning on Twitter, said something. Well, Moore's probably only worth a 2, so I don't know how good this deal is. And I just tweeted back to him, and I don't know who this guy is. He doesn't follow me. I don't follow him. I go, but you're out of your mind. I go, and so, just go back it's 4 years ago now, I guess, to the Buffalo Bills trade with Minnesota for Stephon Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The comparisons are unbelievable. I know we're going to put together some graphics if you hadn't.
Yeah, this is DJ Moore's 80 games, started 73 with the Panthers, a total of 364 receptions for 5,200 yards and 21 touchdowns. Diggs, while he was with Minnesota, had 365 receptions, one more reception than Moore, but fewer yards, 46-23, and this is in 10 fewer games as a starter, 10 fewer games period. Yards per reception, Moore had 14.3, Diggs 12.7, 30 touchdowns for Diggs and 21 for Moore. And it should be noted that the quarterback, Moore had Cam Newton his first 2 years, but outside of that,
actually Cam Newton just 1 year and 2 games.
Okay.
All okay. Right. Then he had what I got here, Kyle Newton for the first couple games, and Kyle Allen the rest of his second year. Okay. He had Bridgewater his third year, Darnold his fourth year, Darnold and Mayfield his fifth year, where Diggs had Bridgewater his first year, Bradford his second year, Bradford for a couple games, then Case Keenum his third year, and Cousins for 4 and 5. A little bit more stability than DJ Moore had as far as the quarterback position and the talent at the quarterback position.
Mm-hmm.
One similar player. They both had Bridgewater for a season.
Yeah. Greg, I saw a tweet that said that DJ Moore is prolific at working the middle of the field. And when I looked at some of the clips of highlights, really, of DJ Moore's time with Carolina, and that's really what I saw over and over and over again, him working the middle of the field. And he's also good at deep routes. But what does he, Claypool, and Mooney now bring to this Chicago Bears offense, that trio of wide receivers?
Well, you know what? They all have different kind of skill set, and I think that complements each other.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, Claypool's your X. I think you can intermingle, whatever, Moore and Mooney as who's going to play the slot and who's going to play the Z.
Mm-hmm.
And you can try to create some matchups because they're both capable of playing either position. But I think it gives you a very solid starting 3 wide receivers when you have that 3 wide receiver package. And they're all good. They all could run. Hell, the slowest guy is Moore, and he's 4.42, or it might be Claypool at 4.42. They're both 4.42 or 4.41, and Moody's a 4.3 guy. I mean, that's electric.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all had production. They're going to have this entire offseason to work together. But let's. There's some more comparisons on this thing that you want to get to. So. Not only does Moore come in here and help settle the wide receiver room, but it tremendously helps Josh Fields, who, just like Josh Allen in that trade, is going into his 3rd year. Josh Allen struggled his first 2 years in Buffalo, did not complete 60% of his passes, just like he never completed 60% of his passes. Well, he was at the University of Wyoming, this 2 years at Wyoming. He was like 55% career passer at Wyoming. And then when he was with the Bills, I think he was around 53 his rookie year. And then he got up to 58.9 or maybe 59 even his second year. Now he gets into his 3rd year and he's got a very reliable receiver in Stephon Diggs, and he jumps up 10 points to 69%. And Josh Allen's game took off. That's what Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. And the rest is history because they got one of the best offenses in the league. When you look at the comparison, it's just remarkable when you look at it that the similarities between the two and the ages are the same. Stephon Diggs, 26 going into that year, his first year with Buffalo, 5 years in the league. Moore's going to be 26 in like 2 months going into his first year with the Chicago Bears in his 6th year. Fields going into his 3rd year. Josh Allen going into his 3rd year. It's like they're mirror images of each other, which I think has got to make Bears fans excited.
Absolutely. I think, from the pulse that I've read on social media, most fans are in agreement that this was a good trade. Now, there are some people, Danny Shimon was a little bit concerned why the 2nd round pick from the Panthers that belonged to, I forgot how he put it. There's the 2nd round. Panthers have 2 2nd round picks, and the Bears got the lower of the 2 2nd round picks. Why not try to get that top 2nd round?
Well, I'm sure he tried. Just like Poles was saying, I got to have more.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Fitterer saying, yeah, and I'm going to have that high too.
It's got to compromise.
You got to have a compromise. That doesn't bother me at all because, first of all, let's fast forward to the draft. I don't think they stay at 9. Just looking at 4 quarterbacks are probably going to come off the board. Right. I think the only way they stay at 9 is if Jalen Carter is still there. where the arrest could come in and get the guy you were thinking about taking at 1, get him at 9 because he got arrested, misdemeanor arrest. Excuse me. Is that a possibility? Sure it is. But, the Bears would have to do all the research, which I'm sure they'll do, and then make a determination. Is this a guy we want on our team and in our locker room, etc.? So that's one possibility. But the other possibilities are, if all the projections are that Tyree Wilson's gone, Nye Anderson's gone, Carter may or may not be gone, depending on if he slips or how much he slips because of his indiscretion. You're looking at a bunch of offensive players that might not necessarily be right in that need area for the Bears. Now they might have their pick of the best corner, and he might not. He say, "Hey, I'm going to take the best corner. Why not? Why shouldn't I?" But they're going to have these discussions, but these discussions are going to go on days before the draft when they're putting they're going to go through these scenarios. But I can see a scenario where he trades down again in the, and so that he's in the right spot to take the right defensive player, and not have to overpay for the player, and, in other words, get him at value.
Absolutely.
But it depends on how they have their board lined up, how they see the player, and what their intelligence tells them as to where they think certain guys may end up going, which is all part of the process. So that part's interesting, but I think, they've got enough ammo now that I think the strength of this draft is not the first round. Actually, it's probably strength of the draft is probably starting at around 2025 and then going to about 40, 42, in my opinion, anyway, where there can be a lot of good players had. So it will not shock me to see them either by trading down again, figuring a way to get in to that upper second round category, and then still have, stuff at the end of the round, and they're going to have the first pick in the third round. So, I mean, they're a little bit of work to do, but they're sitting in a great position right now.
They really are. And I want to thank John Falsetta for the $2 tip. Rest in peace, Bud Grant. Did you hear the news, Greg?
Yeah, I saw it when I was rebooting the computer. That's too bad. What a great coach.
Yeah. Did you have any interactions with him over
No,
years?
not at all. But I had a ton of respect for him.
Yeah, indeed. And he was a nemesis for us Chicago Bears fans. I'm telling you, he was a superman, a super head coach. And John has this question: is 9 too early
for Skoronski?
Yeah. What do you think?
According to the analysts, no. But Skoronski is not going to be a tackle. If anybody who thinks Skoronski is a tackle, get it out of your head right now. He will be a guard in the National Football League. Are the Bears going to take a guard with the 9th pick in the first round? I highly doubt it. Could it happen? Yeah. I doubt it because of the position. Skoronski's arm measurement came out. We talked about this on the other show. 32 and a quarter. There's not a guard in the league or tackle in the league that has arms that short. Okay. The base, there's 2 that have under 33, and that's it. 2 in the league out of 64 starters, 2. So you're not going to put a guy who's just 6'4" and got 32-inch arms and have one of your starting tackles. The other starting tackle across from Braxton Jones is going to be signed probably sometime Monday, or agreed to terms. You can't sign him. And by the way, this trade isn't official either. It won't be official till Thursday. Or Wednesday rather, when the league year starts. So, but that's just, semantics. It's done. So, I got nothing against Skoronski. It's just that, his top priority, he got one of the needs. He got another dynamic receiver, is take care of the defensive line first, and then he wants to get a right tackle. After that, an interior offensive lineman, you're not going to pay a first for an interior offensive lineman in most cases, unless they think the guy is a walk-in Pro Bowl type player. In other words, he's Zach Martin all over again. Yeah, is that a possibility? Yeah, but then you got to do something with Cody Whitehair, which is a possibility. You'd probably have to make him a June 1st cut, but you're still taking a cap hit. And I think one thing this trade did is, number one, it cut into their money by $20 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so now 94 isn't there. Now it's 74.
Yeah.
His cap number for this year is it's like 19 point something million dollars. Drops down to 16. 16 and change for the final 2 years. He's got 3 more years left on his contract. Would not shock me if they restructure this year, part of this year, turn some of it into bonus to pick up an extra 5 or 6 million. I mean, that could mean a couple players.
Indeed.
So that's a possibility, but do they have to do it today? No. Well, number one, they can't. It's not even official. But
right.
But they don't need it in the next week. But they, it might be something that they want to do going forward. It's not going to change a thing as far as how many dollars he sees in his pocket. All it is you're cutting him a check earlier than that he was normally going to get it.
Many thanks to Rich Boy for his generous $5 tip. And he's got this question that a lot of people in the chat room are saying absolutely no way. And I said the same thing. JSN, the wide receiver from Ohio State, Rich Boy claims that he should still be in play because Mooney and Claypool both got hurt and their contracts are coming up. Correct?
Not happening. It's not happening. Just look at what he's got invested this draft in wide receiver talent. Okay. And, there's some issues. I don't talk much about it with the issues with JSN, but there's issues. People have made school calls. To say it publicly, I'm not ready to say what it is, but people have made school calls and have told me what it is. And if that is in fact true, I don't even want him on my football team. Okay. So, because I think, team comes first. And, I'll just say this. Dude's got some diva to him. And the guys they got in that wide receiver room right now don't have any diva to them. They're pretty good guys. So, but no, throw out that notion. He's got a high second of Jace Claypool. He's got part of a trade on the trade down for number one in DJ Moore. They aren't going out and getting Smith and Jigba. It's just get it out of your head. They're getting defense and probably another offensive lineman. If they take a receiver at all, it won't be till day 3.
Foster has a really good question here, and I've been pondering it because he posted it much earlier. Who are the 7 blue chippers that Poles has identified? Who do you think?
I have no idea, and I'm sure he's not going to tell you either.
Let
me tell you who they are. So
let's speculate, though. Who could those 7 guys be in this draft?
I don't think it's all defense. There might even be a quarterback in there. But they're not going to take a quarterback. I mean, now they're definitely not, but you knew they weren't going to before anyway. And by the way, I did say this. From everything I hear, this deal was a done deal except for some finer details at the combine. Basically all done except crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and announcing it. But anyway, no, Claypool's not a little diva. Right. Whoever told you that, you got bad opinion.
Yeah,
I know people that know him really well at Notre Dame, and he is a guy. He is highly thought of.
You spent a lot of time over at Notre Dame, so you've got great sources there. Jamal joined us late, and he's tipped us a couple of bucks. Thank you very much, Jamal. What about if the Bears, would Bijan be in play if they trade down? So would you consider Bijan as a late first-round draft pick?
Me? No. I would never put and I was involved in taking Cedric Paxton, but that was almost 20 years ago, when it was a different game and different priorities. I would never, in today's game, take a running back in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And probably 85% of the league would agree with me. And on top of that, I don't like, everybody says this guy's great. I watched a lot of tape of him. He's not anywhere close to being Saquon Barkley when Barkley was at Penn State. I mean, not even close. And what happened in Barkley's second year? He tore his ACL. Those guys are one hit away from, like, maybe not even being serviceable. And Saquon's really had two strong seasons in the league this year and his rookie year.
Yeah.
The three in the middle were one was you throw out for the ACL, and then he's coming back from the ACL, and the team sucked. But still, it was his first year and this past year that Saquon was Saquon. But if somebody wants to raise their flag or raise their hand for a running back in the first round, go ahead. You're not going to get me to agree with you. I'd fight that one every day of the week. Yeah. And I think Poles would too.
Danny Shimon yesterday talked at length about Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back from Alabama. Says a lot of people are sleeping on this guy, but he has got all the tools that the Bears would be searching for in a running back. Can catch the ball out of the backfield, has that quickness and speed, maybe could add a few more pounds for the NFL game. But what are your thoughts about Jahmyr Gibbs?
No, I like Gibbs. We did running backs the other day, and the guy's a good player. There's no question he's a good player. I agree with you. He's got to be a little bigger. Personally, I think if the Bears are going to take a running back on day 3, and I don't think it would happen before day 3.
Okay.
It would be a guy that is a complement to Khalil Herbert. Mm-hmm. Herbert is a excellent open field runner. He's got that home run ability. He can turn the short run into the long run. Okay, that's his strong point. But he's got two big weak points. He's very average as a receiver coming out of the backfield, and he's probably below average as a pass blocker.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to find somebody that has being a receiver out of the backfield and a pass blocker as his strong points. Mm-hmm. And that's what Monty is. Mm-hmm. Monty and Khalil Herbert complement each other very, very well. Mm-hmm. And, you want to try to duplicate that in some way. You don't want the same thing.
Indeed. I want to switch subjects just quickly here. King T's writes, Colts probably punching air right now. What do you think about the Colts? Because it was long rumored that the Bears and Colts were going to, make a trade. Do you think Ballard is not a happy man right now?
I first of all, I haven't contacted him about it. Mm-hmm. Second, I don't think they were ever. I don't even know if they were given a chance. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at what was the price to go from 4 to 1? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't anywhere close to what they got.
Exactly.
Okay. And Carolina wanted to be in position to choose the quarterback they want. Mm-hmm. One guy said to me yesterday, well, they probably already know who they want. I said, I guarantee you they don't. Mm-hmm. They're going to go through the process just like everybody else does. They're going to do a private workout with the 4 top guys. They're going to do a lot of research with them. They're going to bring all 4 guys in. They're going to spend a lot of time with them. And they get all done. When they get done with that, which will probably be by the first week of April, they'll make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably, still 4 weeks off before they make a decision on exactly who was the guy they want. It's going to be the guy that their quarterback coach, their head coach, Frank Wright, and Scott Fitter. And Scott might not even have as big a play into this as Frank, because Frank's got to coach him. And Frank was a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to play into it, and we'll see. So I don't think we're going to know. And reality is, who Ballard likes might not be the same guy who Frank Reich wants. And he could end up, I think he's still going to have to move up at least a slot,
Mm-hmm.
to the Arizona position. I'm not 100, based on just some things I've been hearing the last couple of days. I'm not 100% sold that Houston's going to take a quarterback at 2 right now. That they're talking to Jimmy Garoppolo, and there is a connection.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Caserio, the Texans GM, was the director of player personnel, vice president of player personnel for New England when Jimmy Garoppolo was drafted by the Patriots, and then they brought in the offensive coordinator came from San Francisco, who just happened to be the guy that coached Jimmy Garoppolo.
Mm-hmm.
So could they sign Garoppolo and still draft a guy? Yeah, they could. They could do that. Or they could sign Garoppolo and say, we'll take a quarterback next year. We're still not going to be a real good team, and we're going to try to get after one of those guys next year.
Greg, I got a question for you, and there are a lot of fans, myself included, we were kind of hoping for something to happen that I don't know if it's ever happened in the National Football League before, but for the Bears to kind of cascade trade down. So trade from 1 to 2, and then trade that 2 to 4, and then trade that 4 to 9, and accumulate a lot of capital. Clearly, that's a pipe dream. I mean, that is such a dangerous way to go about acquiring picks, because if you're trading with multiple teams like that, one of them could say, well, screw you, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in a position that you didn't want to, and then acquire
there's that, and the key to all this was DJ Moore. That's it. What happens by doing that? And I originally thought that might be a scenario. I thought it could go 1 to 2, 2 to 4,
Mm-hmm.
and pick up a 1 next year and 2 high 2s doing that. And, that was a possibility, but you still don't have the player.
Mm-hmm.
It's the player. It's not the picks. It's the player.
Mm-hmm. Many thanks to Marty with the $5 tip. And he says, something no one has talked about yet. What are the chances the Bears, with the number 1 overall next year from Carolina, imagine the haul? Yeah, I mean, that could very well be the scenario, Marty. You're absolutely right. The Panthers might have one of those seasons. They might even take the Bears approach, which is, a total rebuild, not interested in piling up victories as they are in just developing young players. What do you think the chances are that the Bears could have the number 1 overall pick next season?
Yeah, who the hell knows yet? You gotta. Let's get through the next 6 weeks first.
Mm-hmm.
See who Carolina ends up with on their team,
mm-hmm.
and then go from there. I think it's pretty safe to say they're going to have a top 10 pick with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a top 5 pick. Are they going to have number 1? Who the hell knows?
Mm-hmm.
If they do, they got a decision make. They trade down again, or do they say, you know what, we'll take one of these, gifted quarterbacks, and we can play that game all over again.
Indeed.
So, and there's going to be people that are going to be riding that pony around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, because that's the way it is. But we got to get through this year. Let's see how this year works out.
Yeah, indeed.
And then we'll think about next. Hell, I might be dead next year. Let's get through this year first.
Yeah, J2K brings up a good point too. The Carolina Panthers are switching to a 3-4 defense, and so that when you make a change like that, that is not typically an overnight success. Let's take a look at the Bears draft picks as of today, or as of Wednesday when this thing is finalized. Courtney Cronin tweeted out that the Bears now have the 9th overall pick in the first round, 53 and 61 in the second round, 64 in the third round, 103 in the fourth round, 133 in the fourth round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks out of the top 103. That is not too shabby. As a former scouting director in the National Football League, Greg, you got to be salivating when you're giving that.
The day we made, I've been working my ass off getting ready for that draft when we make that Jay Cutler trade. And of course, I knew it might happen, but it wasn't done yet. And then, sending coaches out to work out certain players and all this, and you're making plans, and all of a sudden it gets pulled right out from under. You go, what the fuck am I going to do now? I can play with my pud now on day one. I love picks, especially when you're making selections with picks. But
absolutely.
But you got to, what's best for the team. Like I said, I don't think he's done trading.
And Greg, I got to tell you, one of the panic attacks that I've had over the last week or two is when assessing this draft. And again, I am nowhere near. I'm just a fan, and so I'm looking at this draft from a fan's viewpoint. But I just don't see this as being one of the strongest drafts in recent memory. I think that this is at average. Maybe a little bit above average, but I'm worried that all of these draft picks in this year's draft, it's going to be hard to find some gems. What do you think?
I disagree with you, and
okay.
I understand why you have that thought process, because most fans rate a draft on what's available up top, and they don't really understand the depth of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so. And it's not. It's really, I will agree that the quality of the top of the first round, I mean, we've said that. Will Anderson isn't Myles Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
There's, might not have been the best time to have the first pick in the draft, but, they had the first pick, and there's teams that want quarterbacks. And so, you could get out of that. Like I said a little earlier, I think this draft picks up when you get around pick 20, maybe a little higher than that. And now you're getting into the strength of the draft. I think the second round is super. And I think the third round is going to be super. And what this draft has that there's a lot of older guys in this draft. You got a lot of 5 and 6 year guys, all because of COVID. And so they're not superstars. They're not going to be Pro Bowlers, but they're going to be guys who are going to make your team and help you win.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go back to last year. Okay, so in the 5th round, they take this guy named Braxton Jones from Southern Utah. Yeah, who's he? And were you excited? No. You excited you got him today? Damn right you are. And go back a couple years ago in the 5th round, they take this skinny little fast receiver from Tulane by the name of Darnell Mooney.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Were you excited then? No. You excited today that he's here? Yeah. You don't let it. It's what these guys do for a living.
Absolutely.
So, and they might have, and I don't know where Darnell Mooney was ranked on the board.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been in enough draft rooms to know that when you get into the 4th round, you're getting a guy maybe in your 2nd round.
Okay.
At worst, he's in the first part of your 3rd round. And when you get in the 5th, you're getting a guy from your 3rd or 4th, because everybody's board is different. It's set up according to fit. It's set up according to needs. And especially when you get into day 3, there's going to be guys that are come off the board in the 4th round that Team A has as a free agent, and Team B has as a real solid pick. Who's right? Well, I don't know who's right. Get them in camp, but if you're taking a player because you have a conviction for him, and it's not like you're making that decision that day. You've made that decision before. You've already gone through the scenarios. This is what we're looking at in the 4th round. Who are we going to take? I want this guy. There's certain guys you go into the draft thinking, okay, I want this guy in the 1st, this guy in the 2nd, this guy in the 3rd, this guy in the 4th. And you're just praying that that's how it falls.
Exactly. Yeah. Tony's got an interesting question regarding Ian Cunningham. He says, how huge was retaining Cunningham with all the Bears have going on this year? What do you know about Ian Cunningham? What do you think his influence is with Ryan Poles? And he's a future general manager. If he gets hired somewhere, the Bears actually will get a draft pick. So
they get 2 draft picks if he gets hired somewhere.
Woo! So that would be nice. What do you know about Ian Cunningham?
I don't know Ian. I just know of Ian, and everybody thinks very highly of him. But I'll say this. I know Howie Roseman pretty damn well. And he was Howie's right-hand man. And that tells you something right there. And Howie has excellent evaluators in that building. And he works them. And so, and you look at his DNA, so to speak, where he worked at Baltimore. Well, Baltimore always has one of the best player personnel departments in the league. That was when Ozzie took over that in the late 90s. He developed like a dynasty among personnel departments. Got some great people. And the people who have come from Baltimore are very well-trained people. And Ian is part of that group. So he's highly thought of. Whether he could have gotten a job this year, I don't know. I don't know if he was offered a job. But he will be a future GM. Next year, the year after, and when that happens, you can add a couple threes to that draft.
Indeed.
So they'll be at the bottom of the 3rd, but so what? They're free.
Yeah.
I mean, you're losing a good guy, but you know what? You keep training people, and you find good people, and that you can trust, and you're able to move on. And you're happy that he gets a good job and is able to run his own show.
You tweeted out, I'm trying to find the tweet, but I can't for some reason, but you tweeted out that you think that by early this week, the Bears will have signed an offensive lineman and defensive lineman, if I remember.
Think by Monday night.
By Monday night, okay. So if the 49ers, former 49ers right tackle, Mike McGlinchey is the right tackle, how do you feel about that? Given that he's in his late 20s, he's had some injury issues, his pass blocking is not as good as his run blocking. Do you think that he's on the downswing? Are you concerned at all about that?
He's 28, and his injury issue going back to 21 that carried into 22 was a torn quadricep. So not a knee joint. It's not a situation where you can get a arthritic condition. It's rest, rehab, get the strength back in your quads. Mike he's been a starter for a playoff caliber team that plays the exact same scheme that the Bears do for 5 years. He is a huge upgrade over what they had. What else you want?
Yeah.
You know, could there be a better player out there? Well, I mean, that's a debatable thing for, you know, people argue it. Could Juwan Taylor be better? Juwan Taylor might be a better pass blocker, but can he do, and I don't know the answer to this in all fairness, because the way the Jacksonville offense is set up, you don't see him. He's not asked to do things that the tackles in this offense are asked to do. Okay. You know, so I can't grade it. So I don't think he can run block anywhere near to the level that Mike can. And run blocking is very important here, but he's probably a better pass blocker. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not probably. I'm going to say he is. Mm-hmm. The other guy who would fall into the equation is probably McGarry from Atlanta. When he was drafted by Atlanta, the Bears offensive line coach was the O-line coach there. So he's had him already. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he might sign off. I mean, you know, everybody thinks it's McGlinchey, but it wouldn't shock me if now this guy says Poll's number one right target is Juwan Taylor. Ask him how he knows that.
Sequil's got sources.
Who's the source? How do you know that?
And then he adds that the McGlinchey rumor to Chicago is a smoke screen.
Why do you need a smoke screen? It's free agency. It's not like the draft.
Mm-hmm. Sequil, you're welcome on the show. Talk to us. All right. So a lot of people.
Hey, I'll be honest. I don't care who they sign. Uh-huh. Whoever they are most comfortable with, because you know what? Who's going to be held accountable? They are. Mm-hmm. Right?
Absolutely. But we want to have pleasant Sunday afternoons, so that's why we care.
You're going to have all three of those guys are starters since they walked into the league. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about Orlando Brown? Are you absolutely saying there's no way the Bears will go after him?
I'm saying there's no way. First of all, it's going to cost well over $20 million. He wants well over 20. Mm-hmm. He can't play in an outside zone scheme. He cannot do the things that you want the tackles on this team to do, and that's play in space in the run game. Mm-hmm. They got a whole different scheme. Orlando, if Matt Nagy was still coaching here and Juan Castillo was still coaching the offensive line, I'd be waving a flag for Orlando Brown because now he's a fit.
Right. It's all about scheme fit.
Right. And so you're not going to put, I hate the term square peg round hole, but that's exactly what it is. Mm. Orlando Brown is a square peg to put in the round hole here.
A lot of people in the chat room are commenting on news that Aaron Rodgers, the trade to the Jets is essentially done. It is now up to Aaron Rodgers as to whether he wants to go to New York Jets. This, according to Dov Kleeman, and thank you, people in the chat. Nick,
I saw that earlier today. Green Bay's basically said the same thing without actually saying it. I don't care. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be in this division. Green Bay is going to be in trouble for a little while, whether the cheeseheads want to admit it or not, because they're just not going to be able to afford anything for a little while. They're going to be paying for that contract, which, and they gave into him last year. They never should have done it. Just let him walk. But they gave him this huge, exorbitant amount of money to try to get somewhere with it. And what happened? Besides nothing, just I had a ton of respect for Aaron Rodgers because of his talent. But God, in the last couple of years, he's been such an asshole. Mm. If there's a selfish player, I mean, that's the definition of a selfish player right there, Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. Titans appear to be moving on. Is it the Titans? Ben Powers. Is he a good fit for this offense?
Powers is the Ravens.
Ravens. Yes, you're right.
I don't believe so. He's a left guard.
Mm-hmm.
So you be replacing Cody Whitehair. But they're another power team in their run blocking scheme. So can he do what they want the guards to do here? I don't think so. I haven't studied him enough to say matter of factly. But you look at his numbers and he's a 330 plus pound, he's a bulldozer. The guy's a good player, but that doesn't mean he can play in this scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's going to cost a lot of money. Okay. So, I'm of the belief you pay your tackles and they're going to pay some defensive linemen. They may draft. I'm sure they're going to draft one or two offensive linemen still in this draft. But I think if they spend any money at all in free agency on an O lineman outside of right tackle, it'll be center, and that'll tell us if they're still a go with Patrick or they're saying we made a mistake.
Right. And this is a good draft.
I don't have the answer to that. I mean,
yeah.
I look at, they liked him last year. His tape from Green Bay from 2020 and 21 was excellent. He got hurt in camp, and then he was hurt again during the year. Because of all these injuries, he had to play out of position. And so, people got a sour taste about it. And we haven't seen yet. We saw 1 quarter of him play what he was signed to play.
Mm-hmm.
So, but still, I mean, that'll be combination of Flus, Morgan, Poles, and Cunningham making a decision. Do we feel like we felt last year, or we're going to move on and take a hit on the salary?
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get to some questions here. Toahang asks, do you think that Poles would have made this trade if Jalen Carter didn't get into trouble?
Yes.
Do you think Jalen Carter is on the Bears board or could potentially be off the board if the news gets a little worse? Or based on what we know? I know this is all speculation.
Yeah. Based on what we know, I think he'll be on the board.
Okay.
Might even be picked. Everybody's going to do their research. Don't forget, there's no felonies involved here. These are misdemeanor traffic tickets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. And what do you think about? And I think this was in the column written by your good buddy Peter
King.
Yeah, Peter King. The release of the news about those traffic misdemeanors, that was, the timing of it was very suspicious. It appears, and I was talking to Danny Shimon about it, it appears that perhaps somebody down in Georgia is not a fan of Carter. They
might not be a fan of Georgia football.
Correct.
I don't have an answer to that because I don't know really anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be just like you're saying right now. It'd be total speculation,
right?
On my part, and I don't like dealing with speculation. I like dealing with facts. It's
Mm-hmm.
like yesterday. I got that information. I could have very well tweeted, Bears are getting number 9 and DJ Moore plus. But I wasn't 100% sure that it was actually going down yesterday.
Yep.
So until I know something for sure, I keep my mouth shut.
There you go. Well done, Greg Gabriel, a man of honor. Jake asks, your opinion on Devin Witherspoon and whether he's a fit for the Chicago Bears.
Fit, yes. Good player, yes. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. I did Devin on my little side job. Did him in August. Really liked him off of last year's tape. Then I watched their opening game, and he was outstanding. And because I'm on the board for the East-West, I send a note out to Gelko. I said, Gelko, get on this guy right now and invite him. Well, we got a 5th-round grade. I said, your 5th-round grade is horse shit. This guy's going in the 1st or 2nd round. Let me tell you, I still tell him, remember that? And next year when I'm doing guys for that game, he's gonna say, "Oh, my guys don't like himself." I go, "Yeah, you didn't like Witherspoon either." Now, the only thing on Witherspoon is he hadn't worked out yet, and I think he had a hand pull or something, and he's not going to work out till like somewhere around the 5th or 8th of April, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Illinois, I think, had their pro day yesterday, and might have been Thursday, but he didn't partake. He was there to talk to people, but didn't do any drills. So he's still a month away from working out. That's a stopwatch driven position. You want to get drafted high, you got to run fast. It's the same with wide receiver. You want to get drafted high, run fast. The stopwatch is a very important part of the evaluation process with those guys.
Okay. Tony says, can the McCaskies afford to put $200 million in escrow for Fields' contract? I don't know. I don't think they have to do that, Greg.
Yeah, you got to put the money for the contract in escrow now on a guarantee. If it's a guaranteed contract.
Okay, that's right. I remember.
If it has to be, first of all, it has to be a total. Why wouldn't they? They're building a multi-billion-dollar complex down the street from you. Why wouldn't they have the money to pay Justin Fields?
I agree. I think that they're rolling in money, but I didn't know about this escrow stuff. I remember reading about it, but
yeah, no, that only. I don't know if I agree with it but they want to make sure it's an NFLPA thing. They want to make sure the player gets his money, and so I get that. But is the NFL or one of their clubs ever going to go bankrupt?
I don't think so.
Okay, so I don't think there's a problem with the guys, getting their money. But yeah, but it's only if it's fully guaranteed, or the guaranteed portion's got to go into escrow.
Nicholas asks about the linebacker position. He says, I understand it's not our highest priority, but something has to be done. So when you look at this linebacker class coming in the draft, there's some good players. I think you could find a good linebacker to compete in the 3rd, 4th round.
Well, I hear there could be a linebacker signed this week too. We'll see. And people from where he plays say the same thing, that he's going to be here. We'll see. We'll leave it at that right now. I'll tell you when we get off the air. There's a couple things I got to tell you when we get off the air, but
okay.
One was my text conversation with a certain person yesterday morning. Remember, I sent you a text about it?
Yeah. Okay, we'll definitely talk. Sunquill wants to know about the quarterback position. You think there's any chance we look at Hooker in the 3rd round, or what do you think? I
don't know. General? He's coming off. I don't even know if he can play this year. He's coming off an ACL.
Yeah.
And when's he going to be able to play? Now the doctor's already got the answer to that. I don't know. Is there a chance they'd take a guy? Yeah, there's a chance. Most people are of the belief, and I'm sure Poles is, I am, and I know Ian Cunningham would be because he came from Philly, is that you don't draft a quarterback unless you see starter traits. Now, not saying that he can beat out the guy you got, saying that this guy has got the traits to become a starter in the National Football League. Eventual starter in the National Football League. And if you can't say yes to that, don't draft him.
Okay. Leo Factors asks, who is the best 3-tech in this draft in your opinion? Well, it clearly has to be
it's Carter.
It's Carter, but there's somebody else that you really like a lot.
The kid from Northwestern.
Oh my gosh. Double A, we'll call him. Double A.
Abel.
Yep.
I think that's how you say it.
That's close
enough. I'll stick to that.
I got to tell you, man, this guy, I know.
And then Tuli Tuipulotu.
That's absolutely correct, I think. But
why do these guys got to have hard freaking names
for us all?
What happened to Smith and Jones? Come on,
it's a brand new world out there. What do you think about Kalijah Kancey, and do his short arms, even at the defensive tackle position, does that bother you?
Yes. And I think we talked about it on the show the other day.
Yes.
You know, and I was having a text conversation with Brian Baldinger about it. And Baldy is really a good guy.
Yes.
And, you know, the people want to compare him to Aaron Donald. And there are some similarities. Mm-hmm. Same school, same height. Got that, you know, similar type explosiveness. But the one difference is Aaron Donald's arms are 2 inches longer. And that 2 inches is a huge 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's got, Kalijah Kancey's got 30 and 5/8 inch arms. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's going to, you know, you look at the profile that they have for defensive players and they emphasize, you know, athleticism, strength, and length.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where's the length part there?
Yeah.
And so I just don't know. You know, so I really liked the player, and then the air came out of my balloon when they measured his arms. And I said, oh, shit, there goes that one. Because, I mean, I've been doing this show with you guys long enough to say I am a big believer in the arm length measurement.
Indeed.
They have that measurement for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important because most people who don't come up to the minimum standards don't play good in the league.
That's analytics that you're not talking opinion. You're talking analytics stuff that you studied.
Right.
Yeah. Well, something to pay close attention to. Now, these guys do end up getting picked, shorter arms, and that's probably because, you know, best player available kind of thing, right?
Well, yeah, you know, when you get to a situation like that, you know, it's like a guy who doesn't pass your medical. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, shit, you know, you're brokenhearted at first, but it's like, move on, good, let somebody else take him. Mm-hmm. So I don't, because the last thing you want to do is make a mistake. And if he has a great career, so be it. Now, Brian thinks that he'll be able to, his arm quickness is so good and his strength is so good that he'll be able to overcome. And he may be right. But I can't find a guy with arms that short that's playing in the league.
Yeah. And I know that's something you look for. I know it.
You know, so I'm trying to find the comp. And I came up with the one semi-comp, but I don't believe, I believe the measurement on him was wrong because it was done at a pro day. There was no combine 2 years ago. And still his arms are an inch longer, and that was Micah Parsons. Remember, we talked about that the other day. Micah Parsons had like 31.5-inch arms, but they were done at the Penn State Pro Day. They weren't done under the strict supervision of how they measure arms. And that measurement, more than any other measurement, can be screwed up if it's not done right.
Yeah.
And so if he measured 31.5 at the combine, he's 31.5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I'll give you an example. Abe Bororo. He was over 34 inches, like close to 34.5 or something like that at the Senior Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, at the combine, I think he was like 33 7/8. You got it there somewhere? But I know, put it this way, it was less than it was at the Senior Bowl. And you see that happen a lot. And it's because at the combine, they're very, very strict about how the measurement is done.
and it's the only reliable way. I mean, we see differences between the Senior Bowl and the combine. It's really weird. Anyway, Retro, thank you for your $2 tip. He's been tipping regularly. You're such a good guy, Retro. Thank you very much. If Fields fails, do the Bears draft a quarterback next year?
No, we mentioned that. I'm going to say, yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to even go there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get through this draft and get through this season. And see, he's going to have a better line. I think he's going to have a better line on Monday night than he's got today. and then he's already got a better wide receiver core. And on top of that, he's got the whole offseason to work for him.
Mm-hmm.
To learn the system. So It's not going to be like halfway into the season, you're bringing in a guy from one of the other clubs. Now, Chase Claypool and DJ Moore and Mooney, they're all going to be able to work together this spring and I wouldn't be a bit surprised they start working within the next couple of weeks together.
Larry,
not necessarily here, but somewhere it's nice and
down in Florida. Larry T asks, Luke Van Ness, Keon White, and Adebawore all have 3 tech traits. Is Adebawore still the better 3 tech out of those 3 guys he's listed?
Out of that group, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I might take Adebawore first, Keon White second, Van Ness third, but Keon White, can play left defensive end for you too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a strong, explosive guy. So, and he's 6'5" versus 6'1.5".
Mm-hmm.
So, Van Ness, personally, I don't think he's a first rounder. I don't care what everybody else says. And that has something to do with the text conversation I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
But he's rated as such, but there's people I know in the league, decision makers, that don't have him in the first round. They got him in the second round. And I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm not saying that at all. I think he's got a bright upside. He still had 2 years of eligibility left. He did not start at Iowa, and he's very, very raw. Does he have a promising upside? Yes. But do you take that in the first round?
No.
Raw with upside?
No.
How about production?
Yeah, we've done that before, and I don't like it. J2K wants to give you another difficult name to pronounce, Felix Anaduke
Uzoma. Love him.
Hey, well done. Yeah, so how do you think he's a fit?
Oh, yeah. And he's a walk in and start guy.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be a guy. If everybody's right on where he's going, you got to get into the bottom of the first to get this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be a hell of a player.
People in the chat room said they're gonna hack my text. All right, everybody. We've done an hour. We've done more than an hour considering we had a false start here. Penalty, false start. But it's been great fun in our coverage.
5 yards. 5 years.
5 years. I can't afford 5 years. Trust me. Our coverage is going to continue tomorrow morning. Aaron Current and the rest of the Barfly Tailgate show guys are going to get together to talk about the trade, potential free agents, and so forth. And I think we're going to plan something for Monday night too, given all the news that Greg is saying that we'll probably be hearing. So we'll probably come on here Monday night and talk some football, and then the rest of the regularly scheduled programs throughout the week. So it's been great. And don't forget to head over to our patreon.com page, patreon.com/barroom draft, and you can get exclusive Greg Gabriel and Danny Shimon draft reports there. You can find that information on my Twitter page at Barroom Network. And don't forget to follow Greg at GGABE Football on Twitter. Greg, thanks very much for your time. And thank you.
Yeah, we got to talk.
I will. And also thank you to John, Rich, Mr. Shorty, Marty, and Retro for your kind tips.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.